We are sorry for the actions and the inactions of physicians, residents, and medical students that have harmed Indigenous peoples.
Angela Anton is smudging so she can keep her words positive as she speaks her truth.
Ground cedar.
It's been a few days since she says she saw an assault of a First Nations woman and her 7-year-old son.
He yanked her bag and he wound up to go and hit her, and he actually punched her. You could hear that when he struck her in the mouth, and I was just like, what the hell is happening?
She went on to say the son was pushed into a vending machine. It happened inside this store in an area in Winnipeg that's home to a large Indigenous community. As an Ojibwe woman herself, she believes this was a racial profiling situation.
No respect for Indigenous people, there are people out there with problems, but we still have to go into the store to buy our bread and our milk and stuff.
Manitoba's Grand Chief is in agreement and says systemic discrimination needs to stop.
It's unfortunate that it's 2024 and that still happens to our people, and that's not right.
She says her organization is fed up with this type of treatment and are taking a hard stance because of this incident.
Well, we're a big economy as First Nation people, and people have to realize that.
AMC's Jordan's Principal program gives vouchers to hundreds of families every month to get groceries here. Until now, she says they have terminated their working relationship with Food Fair. The store owners say this was a shoplifting matter, and dealing with incidents like this can be complex. Winnipeg police have confirmed they received a report on the matter and are investigating. In a statement put out by the store, owners said they have suspended the staff member in question pending an investigation. The owners also went on to say, going forward, this is an opportunity for education, growth, and repair. Their next steps, reaching out to Indigenous organizations to give their staff some cross-cultural training.
And we'll talk about the medicine wheel.
Coincidentally, Antoine, who witnessed the alleged assault, just happens to do that already as the Director of Indigenous Services at the Behaviour Health Foundation.
We do cultural sensitivity training with Winnipeg police and cadets and 911 operators and stuff like that.
Once she's processed what she witnessed, she's hoping to take the store owners up on their offer. T.R. Wheatley, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Today, the national organization overseeing doctors in Canada is asking for forgiveness at a ceremony in downtown Victoria.
The racism and discrimination that Indigenous peoples and healthcare providers face is deplorable, and we are deeply ashamed. As the national voice of the medical profession, we are sorry for the actions and the inactions of physicians, residents, and medical students that have harmed Indigenous peoples.
Dr. Alika Fontaine is the former president of the Canadian Medical Association and says this day is an important first step.
After years of internal work, the CMA is sharing and owning its history. We recognize this apology may reopen wounds and re-traumatize First Nation, Inuit, and Métis individuals, families, and communities who have and continue to experience harms in Canada's healthcare system.
And according to this report called In Plain Sight, done in 2020 in BC, 84% of 9,000 Indigenous people and Indigenous healthcare workers say they experienced some type of racism and discrimination that prevented them from seeking necessary care, negatively affecting their health. These outcomes reinforce stereotypes and perpetuate the cycle of inequity. In 2022, the CMA brought on Indigenous elders, knowledge keepers, and experts to help the organization define an Indigenous health goal. This led to them reviewing its past and acknowledging the harms Indigenous people suffered, dating back to the establishment of residential schools and Indian hospitals.
The Indian hospital system embedded systemic racism and discrimination in the Canadian health system by fostering racial segregation and conditions where Indigenous patients received substandard and unsafe care. Patients were subjected to abuse, experimental treatments, and forced and coerced sterilization.
Dr. Nell Wyman says she is hopeful things will change, but there is a lot of work to do.
I'm more interested in hearing what's going to happen now what's going to happen starting tomorrow. And I think a major driver of trying to make the healthcare system does not lie within the Indigenous physicians like myself within the system. We've been speaking up for years about how unsafe it is for patients and for ourselves, for Indigenous medical students, residents, and physicians. I think really the onus and accountability will lie with our non-Indigenous physician colleagues to take up that cause.
Tina House, APTN National News, Victoria.
That I blacked out, and I remember they put me in a stretcher and wheeling me down the steps, and I was swearing all the way because they were hurting me.
The week of August 30th, 73-year-old Reuben St Charles fell at home in Saskatoon and broke his hip. His wife called an ambulance and he was taken to the Royal University Hospital. Reuben lost consciousness in the ambulance. He didn't wake up until his hip was replaced. That is when he noticed his hair was cut.
No hair, I felt my ponytail, no hair, nothing. A little while later I was laying in bed, and none of the nurses come in there. They're funny. When they did come in there, I said, "What happened to my hair?" I says, "We'll tell you later," or something like that.
Before the replacement, Reuben says he had a small ponytail that took years to grow. It was intended to be cut only if he lost his sister. When he asked some nurses what happened to his hair, Reuben says he didn't get answers, but did hear laughter.
I heard these nurses laughing. I don't know if it's the same too, but I heard them laughing, saying, "Well, at least he's got the start of a mohawk cut."
He was transferred from Royal University Hospital to City Hospital around September 5th. He called the Métis Nation Saskatchewan for help. That's when MNS patient advocate Bonnie Marwood entered the picture.
When I first got to know him, he was doing quite a bit of cursing, and he was upset, and rightfully so. But since then, we've had lots of talks, and he's got some real life experiences, and he's got a wealth of knowledge, and he's our elder, and I enjoy talking with him. Reuben deserves to know who hurt him.
St. Charles and Marwood have searched for answers without luck. They still aren't sure about what happened. The Saskatchewan Health Authority emailed APTN a statement. It says, in part, "We acknowledge the deep cultural significance of hair and braids in First Nations and Métis cultures, and recognize that cutting hair without permission can cause emotional and spiritual harm, evoking past cultural trauma." It goes on to say the SHA extends its deepest apologies for this individual's experience, and we remain committed to engaging with this patient to understand and learn from this experience. The investigation into why Reuben St. Charles's hair was cut is ongoing. The SHA says they will let him know the outcome once it's complete. St. Charles is home now, and despite his experience at Royal University, he thanked the nurses at City Hospital who took the time to get to know him. Rachel May, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
You know, there's other places where we can spend our money, and we've done a lot of business over the years.
Long-time customers Calvin Niepenak and Jennifer Chartrand are choosing to shop elsewhere after this incident that happened on Tuesday, October 1st, involving a Toro security guard.
You gotta go home, buddy.
Calvin.
First time? The couple says they went to this Home Depot on the 800 block of Leela Avenue in Winnipeg to pick up the door they purchased online. When they arrived, they decided to stop and look at the Halloween display and snowblowers. And that is when a security guard approaches Niepenak.
Oh my God.
He says, "What are you doing here? What do you want?" And I said, "Excuse me?" That's exactly what I said, "Excuse me?" And then he said, "What are you doing here? What do you want?" I said, "I'm here to pick up an online order." I said, "You know what? You don't even work here. You're just a security guard." I said, "You're not an employee here." And then that's when he got mad.
This guy just came up to us and he's like almost attacking Calvin. What the hell?
Chartrand's cell phone video begins recording about 1 minute after the initial interaction. The guard then takes out his cell phone to make his own recording, while Chartrand and Niepenak try to get the incident resolved at the customer service desk.
Oh my God, I'm like flipping out.
Then, a heated back and forth between Nipanak and the security guard.
You said say you leave. No, I didn't. You just told me to go back to my country.
Chartrand says she wanted to record everything, fearing that if she didn't, the interaction could have been a lot worse.
Because I've heard these stories go terrible, you know? I fumbled for my phone and I instantly went live.
Look at that. Look at that. He's still going at it. He's still going at it.
In the end, they were told by the security guard to leave the store, both upset and without their purchase.
We were completely humiliated. Absolutely. I felt like a criminal when we weren't.
Home Depot reached out to them to apologize and say they started an investigation. In a statement, a Home Depot spokesperson said, "We take these matters seriously, and the actions of the third-party security guard involved were unacceptable and did not align with our values. Customer service, respect, and safety are always a priority. I can tell you that the security guard involved is no longer at this store." APTN News attempted to get a comment from Toro Security in Winnipeg about the incident and the security guard involved. However, the company told APTN News they were unavailable numerous times. Chartrand says she wants cultural sensitivity training for Home Depot and the third-party staff it hires, while Nipanak believes there's a more serious reason as to why this happened. And after years of being watched and followed in other stores, Nipanak decided to take a stand on this day.
It's, how do you say it, racial profile. That's exactly what it is, you know, and I happen to look very indigenous, you know, but there's nothing.
This video was uploaded onto social media on November the 13th that shows a 16-year-old girl who doesn't wish to be identified being detained by 6 security guards at the Guildford Town Centre Mall in Surrey, BC.
Yeah, you're traumatizing her. Let go of her. Let go of her now. Let go of her. Let go. You're using unnecessary force. You don't need to hold on to her like this. What are you doing? Why are you putting your knee in her back? Who do you think you are? Who do you think you are?
After what was supposed to be a fun time for who we will call Jane and her 2 non-Indigenous friends at the mall turned into a nightmare after security guards questioned only the Indigenous girl about stealing from the Victoria's Secret store. After the teen showed them inside her bag, which had nothing in it, a security guard then allegedly slapped her phone out of her hand and smashed it on the ground.
They had me outside first, and then they brought me inside, and that's when all of the other security guards came and they all cornered me. And then that's when I started feeling like I was being trapped, and like, I don't know, I felt really cornered and like, I felt really claustrophobic by being surrounded by all these security guards, and that just made me feel really inhumane. It made me feel like not human, being like so surrounded by security guards and getting pinned to the ground after I showed them I had nothing.
Jane says when one of the security guards had her on the ground, she couldn't breathe for up to a minute. According to the teen, the entire incident lasted for approximately 10 minutes until police showed up. The Surrey RCMP confirmed that they did go to the mall. Their statement reads in part, "On November the 12th, 2024, at 8:43 p.m., police responded to a report of an assault on a security guard at Guildford Town Centre. Police were advised that the suspect female was being detained by the mall security. Our officer attended and arrested the suspect female for assault. According to the mall security, the female allegedly spat toward a security guard and was subsequently detained. The suspect, who is a youth, was released at scene to their guardian. Investigation is ongoing and all aspects of what transpired are being looked at." But Jane's mother says her daughter was not arrested or charged, and she believes her daughter was racially profiled.
Shame on you guys. You guys are grown, big men. There's no need to be handling anybody like that or even put your hands on anybody at all. Like, it's very shameful.
Sino General is her stepfather and says their daughter is traumatized over what happened.
Speaking with her after and then speaking with the officer was talked to her right away and was more on her side, like right away, like, okay, something, she was like, something's off. And she went and watched the TV camera in the mall, and she saw that she was offering her bag, showing that, hey, I ain't got nothing. Look, I ain't got nothing. And they still went in and grabbed her. And so, like, that's where the officer was like, they should have de-escalated. They didn't. So that, you know, that was an assault. That was forcible confinement. Public mischief, because they singled her out as being Indigenous.
APTN reached out to Paladin Security for comment, but we did not get a reply before the story went to air. A rally is planned for later today outside of the mall where it happened, and we will have a full story for you next week. Tina House, APTN National News, Surrey.
Jason Kennedy is currently recovering from his recent surgery, staying at the Seven Oaks General Hospital in Winnipeg. Despite losing his wrong leg to an amputation at Grace Hospital, his spirit remains high, along with his humor.
Like, I gotta get upper body strength if I'm gonna be in a wheelchair. Like, I'm hoping for a hovercraft at least. like, gee whiz, like, somebody invent that, please, I'll be the first one to try it out.
On October 23rd, the 48-year-old who has diabetes went to Seven Oaks because he was in pain and his right foot was bleeding. Medical staff determined an amputation was needed due to a previous bone infection he was living with. With the worry that the infection could get worse and enter his bloodstream, the amputation was done on October 31st by a surgeon and medical staff at Winnipeg's Grace Hospital.
Like, I was under the impression that they were going to take the leg that had the infection.
However, when Kennedy woke up, he realized the wrong leg was amputated. He says it felt like a bad dream. But then he recalled to his teachings he received from his grandparents.
Having that forgiveness within ourselves, and to forgive yourself. And, you know, we can't judge and blame others, you know, for whatever happens in our lives. We leave that up to the Creator.
Kennedy says the surgeon at Grace Hospital and 2 other medical staff apologized for what happened.
The surgeon came in and told me he was apologizing, and he apologized to me. He said, I'm sorry, I took the wrong foot. Like, gee whiz, I know that you took the wrong foot. And I told him straight out, like, I wanted to burst out freaking out at him, but that's not the way we grew up. We grew up with understanding, forgiveness.
A critical incident review of what went wrong is now underway by the Winnipeg Regional Health Authority. They say they can't comment due to patient confidentiality. Manitoba's health minister declined an interview request with APTN News, but said in a statement, a review is investigating whether racial bias played a role. Uzoma Asagwara, Manitoba's health minister, added, the health and safety of patients in this province is my top priority. I want to extend my sympathies for the patient and their family. This is a heartbreaking situation that no one deserves to go through. The Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs is calling for immediate action and a full and transparent investigation into the incident. They are saying, quote, this tragic error which left Mr. Kennedy in shock and disbelief upon waking from anesthesia highlights ongoing systemic issues within healthcare delivery to First Nations people. Kennedy, who is a commercial fisherman and was previously homeless in Winnipeg, appreciates all the care and support he has received following the incident, including from Lisa Young, who is chief of Bloodvein First Nation, and his cousin.
You know, Jason taught me how to harvest rabbits when we were little, and, you know, going through the bush trails and doing all those outdoors type things. Now I know he's not going to be able to do that as freely as he could before. So just a whole life-changing scenario for him, and it's devastating. It shouldn't have happened.
Kennedy is now exploring his legal options and speaking with a lawyer about compensation. Medical staff are also trying to save his right foot with antibiotics so he doesn't lose that leg too. For now, Kennedy hopes his story will bring necessary change within Manitoba's healthcare system so that an incident like this never happens again.
Everybody should be put in place and to know what their duties are and what has to happen.
For APTN National News, I'm Chris Sanachkate in Winnipeg.
Justice for Joshua! Justice for twins! Justice for Garnet! Justice for twins!
Some Montrealers are demanding accountability for the shooting of twins Joshua and Garnet Papagatuk in Salouit, Nunavik.
They were like always mentioned together, you know, Joshua and Garnet, Garnet and Joshua. It's not just Joshua and just Garnet, but now it is.
Courtney Papikatuk organized the protest in honor of her cousins. A month ago, a Nunavik police officer allegedly shot the twins in Salouit, which is in northern Quebec. Joshua was taken to hospital, where he was pronounced dead, while Garnet was medevaced to a hospital in critical condition.
Justice for Garnet! Justice for twins!
Mothers from across Canada who had lost their children during interactions with police came to Montreal to support the Papikatuk family.
They will never be held accountable for anything. And this is where we have a problem at. And that's why the whole community needs to start standing up for us, okay? Like, this is a fight on our hands.
Claudette Biles Clayton's daughters, Regis Korchinski-Paquette, died in a wellness check in Toronto.
No justice! No peace!
Martha Martin is the mother of Chantel Moore and Mike Martin, both members of Clayoquot First Nation in British Columbia.
I've lost my daughter in 2020, and 5 months after I lost my son.
Chantel was killed during a police wellness check, and Mike died by suicide while in police custody.
How many gatherings do we need to continue coming to?
16 lives have been lost in Nunavik.
This protester says policing in Nunavik needs more cultural training.
There is a huge gap between the policing and the community. I believe that the police services are not culturally informed. They're not trauma informed.
For weeks following the shooting, protests were held across Nunavik.
Justice for Joshua!
Salouit resident Donald Michael Cameron says Nunavimutes have mistrust in the investigation being carried out by the Bureau des Enquêtes Indépendants, or BEI.
The BEI came in days later to do their investigation, and they were there for a little over 24 hours, and then they left the community. There was no information given to us other than the BEI is coming to town. If you were a witness, please come forward and talk to the BEI.
The BEI said it would not provide an update on its investigation as it is ongoing.
This is not the first time we've marched. This is not the first time we've demanded peace.
Demands for accountability still continue, with the calls now extending outside of Nunavik.
We ask for justice from the people of Quebec and Canada.
The investigation into the shootings in Salouit is expected to take 6 months. Savannah Craig, APTN National News, Montreal.